Welcome back, everyone. Here I come up with another lecture in C programming language, where we're going to discuss user-defined functions in C programming. User-defined functions are very useful tool in programming environment where we can develop a modular-oriented programming. Let us begin to understand first why such user-defined functions are required in real software development environment. Okay, so let us first understand the need of function. Look at the first point that I have highlighted here. It is saying that it is very difficult to prepare and maintain a large-sized program. As of now, we are writing very small piece of code, 10 lines, 5 lines like that. Now think about the software industry. Let's take an example of this bank application. When you visit any particular branch office of any particular bank, you will see there are various divisions as they have been working all together. Various divisions, account opening, you're going to deposit certain money, you're going to withdraw certain money from certain counters, or you're looking for certain other services where you can look for how to open an internet banking account. Okay, you're looking for the loan or credit card application. There are many such services exist. Now think about you're visiting only one branch office of particular bank. There might be many branches exist in our country, all over the world for this particular bank. So how this all such transaction is performing? You might open one of your account in your state such as Mumbai, and you can access this account from any part of this world with the help of internet. So we need what we need is centralized software. And if you look at carefully, that software is providing different types of services to you, such as deposit an amount, withdraw an amount. You can open a types of accounts such as savings and current, and looking for services such as internet banking opening, mobile banking, SMS service, many such operations. So if you're going to design a software, we cannot put every such details inside main method only. We cannot put. So then it is very difficult to maintain such large sized program. One point you should take care, once a software is delivered to the particular client by any particular organization, the next step of the software is maintenance. So whenever that particular client is facing any issue to that software, they can easily reach to the software company who has been delivered that particular product. And if they need any new functionality, they can add it easily. So if you put everything inside the main method, it will be difficult to maintain that such large size softwares where you're going to write millions of codes, millions of lines. So with the help of functions, here we're talking about user-defined functions, because C has two types of functions. One is library functions that we normally use, such as printf, scanf for input-output. These are library functions. There are many such other functions also we are normally using with the help of header files. Apart from that, we can also design a functions so that we can design modular-oriented code. Modular-oriented code. And whenever it is necessary, we can call that particular function from the main method or any other method. So now you can see there are three modules at large in this software: transaction module, account opening module, and services module. Under that, there are sub modules. One is deposit money, withdrawal money. So we can put these two sub modules under the large module transaction. We can put opening savings account, opening current account, or account opening under account opening module, and other two services under services module. So if some problem occurs in the bank branch that this module is not working. You try to deposit some money, software is not responding. So software industry will not look all other modules, simply look on this particular module if there is any problem. So this is the benefit if you design your program with the help of user-defined function. It will help you for modular-oriented program, help you to design modular-oriented program. And another benefit is that suppose you have designed a function called print function, okay, to that particular bank application, print function. I can use this print function to the withdrawal module. After withdrawing amount from the bank, I need to update my passbook, so I can call the print function. After depositing certain money to my account, I can ask for updation of my passbook with the help of print function. So this is what you design the code once, you can use it as many as you want. This is called code reusability. So through function in C programming, we can achieve these two. You can say three things. We also getting what? We can reduce the complexity level of the code. Complexity level of the code. Okay, why? Because we're going to partition the code into small modules. So our maintenance will be easy maintenance. Okay, so I hope the idea is clear. Why should we design the functions? So now let us see how functions is going to be created in C programming. What are the syntax over there? How it is going to be help us to design modular program. Before I show you the syntax of user-defined function, let us show you a structure of C function or C file. Here you can see, whenever we write a C program, we always start writing the code with the main method. Here main is what? Main is a function. The main is a function. Okay, main is a function here. So you can see I'm using a pair of parentheses after the name main. And what is this? This is a value a main method can return. So that's why every time we write either return 0 or we write return 1 at the very last statement from main. Main is what? Main is system declared function. It is a default function that every C program required. Default function that every C program required. That's why we called it entry point of execution. Your program execution started from this line of code. So whenever we talk about a function will execute only if it is called by someone. So main method is basically called by whom? By the operating system. So this return value is returning to whom? To the operating system. So now let's see the syntax of the functions. Here you can see the return type. First of all is the return type. So if we talk about the main method, return type of the main method is right now int, means it can return only integer type value. So here you can check I'm returning a value 0. What is the type of 0? 0 is an integer constant. So I'm returning an integer type value. Second is the function name. So what is the name of the function in this case? Main. And third, in this parenthesis, what I'm going to put? Parameter list. As of now, there is no parameter for the main. No parameter. So that's why this parenthesis is empty, no parameter. We'll see later in this lecture how can we pass the parameter, what is the benefit of passing the parameter. Later we're going to see. And inside the main method, next what we did, we started after this parenthesis, we started the blocks with the help of curly brackets. So this represents what? This represents the body of the function. So function has what? Function also has the body. Body means that we're going to write certain logic inside it. maybe one line of code, maybe 100 line of code, but specific to any particular task only. But specific to a particular task only. Body of a function. So whatever the things we can put inside the body, we can put a declaration. We can put anything. We can put if-else statement. We can put loops over that, whatever you require. So you can see whenever we write the main method, we put many things inside main. Declaration, initialization, input, output, any particular logic, condition, switch case, go to statement, loops, anything we can put. So similarly, the structure I am given, this is a structure of a user-defined function. User-defined function. So there's a similarity with the main method also, correct? So this is the reason I'm returning an integer, because the return type is main. We cannot return float, we cannot return character, we cannot return double or any other type apart from integer from main method, but we can return any type from an user-defined function, that function we're going to write. So when you talk about return type, okay. So when you talk about return type means the type of data that the function will return. A function may return any type of data except an array. So we'll see later in this course what is array. Array is a data type. You can see my data type lecture to understand the just introduction I have given. Array called a list of data together, all together, list of data all together. So any type of data a function can return. So when you call any type of data means such as integer it can return, float can return, character can return, short integer can return, double can return, any type. We'll see them in detail, what are the types it can return. Next point. Parameter list. It is what? It is a comma separated list of variable names and their associated types. We'll see very shortly how can we pass the parameter, but it will be what? Parameter list, or you can say list of parameters. When you say list, it can have only one or more than one. More than one. That's why it is written, it is a comma separated list of variable names and their associated types. When you say variable, every variable has certain type. Every variable has certain type. So such as you can write something like this, comma separated. Okay, so here you can see. So two parameters are there in a function, comma separated. Type of A is integer, type of B is integer. We can pass any type of parameter. And they will be called what? They will be called argument to the function. Argument to the function. Okay, so parameter list also called arguments. Correct? Next. Now let's see how C program, what are the steps we need to follow in C program to working with function. We need to follow certain steps. Step number one, we need to declare a function before we go and use it. Definitely, because you know in C programming, suppose you want to use a simple variable, you want to write A equal to 10. So compiler will first look, it is declared or not. So this declaration is important before you use this particular variable. So similarly, for function also, declaration should be the step number one. So let us see how to declare a function. We should remember the syntax. Return type, function name. If we have a list of parameters, comma separated, this should be there in declaration. So let's see the first one. So now see this simple code that I have given. Here I have declared two functions. One function is declared before main method. Here int is what? Int is the return type. Here what is the fun one? The name of the function. and the list of parameters are empty. Empty, no parameters I have passed. So function is declared before main. We can also declare a function inside main. Inside main. So again, int is what? The return type. And fun2 is what? The name. And now list of parameters are empty. As of now, it is empty. So function can be declared in two different positions in a C program. Before main, here you can see the example of before main. And inside main. This is the example of inside main. What is the process? Just follow the syntax. What will be the syntax? Return type, function name, and if you have any parameters, you can pass the parameters and put a semicolon. Put a semicolon. This semicolon is important. Semicolon means end of statement. So when we declare a simple variable also, we give a semicolon. That means end of declaration. Here return type is int for both the functions. And there is no parameters as of now. But still parentheses are required even though we did not pass any parameter. Parentheses are important. If you did not provide this parenthesis, what compiler will consider? See, if I write this int fun semicolon and if I write int fun. So if I did not use parenthesis, then it will be considered a variable. From the name, compiler doesn't understand it is function. Do not consider fun is a keyword. Fun is not a keyword. It's just a name of an identifier here. The function name is also a identifier name. You can give any name to the function. The rules you need to follow. Rules of identifier names. So this will be variable, but this is not a variable. This is a function. This is a function. So how compiler understand this is a function? From this parenthesis. So parenthesis must. If you did not use parenthesis, it will be considered as a variable. So I hope you understand why these parentheses are required. And at last, a semicolon is must at the end. So now this is what? This is declaration. This is declaration. Step number 1. So let's see in the compiler. Let's declare functions in compiler. So I'm declaring before main method. And I'm also declaring inside main method. I just declared. So let's just run. See, everything is fine. There is no error. That means whatever the syntax I have followed to declaring a function, it is correct. If I remove semicolon, say I'm removing semicolon, error. So face semicolon is must. Next, please remember this point, very, very important point. Remember this point. Wherever we declare a function, wherever means there is two positions only, before main, inside main. Wherever we declare a function, it is global in C programming. Global means I can use this function from any other function I can call, even though I have declared it inside main method. I have declared fun2 inside main method, but still I can call this function from any other function, any other user-defined function. So wherever you declaring a function from these two given position, it will be considered as global. Means on required, we can call it from anywhere. But if you ask me, normally in a standard approach where if declare the function, normally we declare the function before main. So that before main means it doesn't belongs to anything. Before main means doesn't belongs to anything. It is global. So inside main, sometimes we get confused. It is inside main fun2. So I think it is only can accessible within main. No. This is the difference with simple variable and function. If you declare a simple variable inside main, I can access it within the main method only. I cannot access it outside. It will be considered as a local variable. But here, fun2 is not local. The nature of function, it will be considered as a global. So I can call it from anywhere. So normally we declare the function before main method. Because if I before main method I declare anything, it will be also considered as a global. In between the header files and main functions, okay? Do not put the function declaration before header file. Header file should be the first line written in your code if you have required any header file. Step number 1, declaring a function. So our declaration is over. Next. Step number 2, defining a function. Yes, if you declare a variable, okay, we need to define it with some values. We need to define it some values. So step number 2 for function also same, defining a function. When you call defining a function, it means now we're going to write down the logic inside the function, that what is the purpose of that function. What is the purpose of that function? That purpose we're going to write inside the function. Defining means we're going to write what? The purpose of a function. With the help of what? Certain logic that we're going to write, some piece of line of code, source line of code. So now let's see what is the process that we can follow for defining a function. Okay. Here you can see I have defined the function into 2 different locations. Look at fun1 is now defined before main. Fun1 is defined before main. Here you can see how sir you are claiming it is definition. See, I have started the body using the curly brackets. Now there is no semicolon after the parenthesis. No semicolon. It means this is what? Definition. Definition. Similarly, I have defined function fun2, okay, fun2 after main. So 2 places I can define a function. One is before main, another is after main. Here you can see I have defined the function after main. Okay. So now let's define these 2 functions in the compiler. Let us see. So one very important point here I want to highlight. I want to highlight that when you define a function before main method, then declaration is not necessary. Declaration is not necessary. Please note down this point. When we define a function before main method, fun1 is defined before main method. In that case, declaration step number 1 we can ignore, it become optional. So let me show you in the compiler. Okay, here is fun1, correct? So now I putting this fun1 in comment. I going to define it. Okay, so no semicolon, start the body. Right now consider just empty. It is empty, correct? Empty body. We'll write down the logic later. It is also empty. Fun2 is declared. In line number 8, I am following the step number 1 for fun2. Why? Because fun2 is defined after main method. This is the reason fun2 need to be declared. So whatever you declare, defining the function after main, declaration is compulsory. What will happen if we did not declare? I'll show you later. So now if I run this code, now see there is no error, no warning. So it means if we define a function before main, declaration is not required. What if we declare, let us see, now I'm uncommenting. Now declaration is also there, definition is also there. Both has been done before main. Declaration is also there, definition is also there. Both has been done before main. So let's see what will happen now. See, no problem. So that's why I tell you that if you define a function before main, declaration is optional. You can put it, you can ignore it. Okay, so I'm ignoring it. No need to write because it is not required compulsory. Unless it is compulsory, we are not going to write. Next, now suppose that I am defining function fun2 after main and I am commenting out the fun2, the declaration. Declaration is now commented. Declaration of fun2 is commented. So now let me show you what will happen. Fine. Normally, I'm expecting here warning. Warning is that it will tell you that an implicit declaration is there. Compiler will declare implicit declaration will done. So now suppose I make it float as a return type. Now run. No issue. Okay, we can declare fun2 before main also. So let's declare fun2 before main. Run, no problem. So I've declared it inside main. So keep it inside main for the time being. Run. Fine. Let's go back to the presentation. Now discuss. So next point. Next point. Function definition has two parts. Look at carefully. Function definition. It has a header. So this is called the header. This is called the header. And the body. So this will be the body inside the curly brackets. Body started with curly brackets, ended with curly brackets. Now look at carefully function header. Function header contains three information. Function header contains three information. What are the informations? Let us see. Return type. Yes, function header contains return type. This is return type. Function header contains name. Yes, fun1 is a name for this function and fun2 also has name for this function. Third, list of parameters. As of now it is empty. So when there is a no parameter, normally we write void inside the parenthesis. Void means no parameter. Void. Void. Void means no parameter. So let me show you in the compiler. Void means no parameter. So keep it void means no parameter. Void, no parameter. For main also no parameter, void. Fun2 also void. See, fine. So void means what? Void means no parameter. Note down this point. When you say empty, empty has a different meaning in function. We'll see end of the lecture. What is the meaning of this empty parenthesis? If you want to make it no parameter, write it void. Means no parameter. And at last what we have? Body of the function. Body of the function started with this curly brackets, ended with the curly brackets. In the function definition and function declaration, one important point we should remember. One important point. See, the return type of the function should be same in declaration as well as in definition. Should be same. They should be same. So let's go back to the compiler, see what will happen if we mismatch over there. Let's make fun2 as float. declared as a float return type, but when I defined, I write it integer. Correct? Run this. See the error. See the error. See this error here. What it is saying? The previous declaration fun2 was here. So it is considering that if you did not declare a function, it will be considered there is an integer type function is declared. But we have declared float type, that's why getting this warning. Previous declaration of fun2 was here. Compiler by default declared an implicit declaration of function fun2 as integer. So here type is mismatch. Here type is mismatch. Here you can see type mismatch. In line number 8 it is float, in line number 12 it is integer. Okay, clear? So this point is very, very important. While you're declaring a function, the return type you are mentioning, and when you defining the function, they should be same. Should be same. Okay, if there is a mismatch, you'll get an error or warning. Okay, so now let's make it same so that all the errors can be taken care. Okay, fine. So let's go back to the presentation. So the point I have already told, if a function is defined before main, we can ignore the declaration of such function. For this code fun1, it is simply defined, so no declaration is required. It is optional, we can ignore. So this is step 2. Step 1 is declare. If you've done the declaration, define it now. So let's see. Third step now, calling a function. Okay, so now you can see I have write the complete some logic, some piece of code inside the body of the functions. And here you can see function can be called from two different function can be called from two different location, two different position. Function can be called from main. Here you can see I am calling the function fun1. So how to call the function? How to call a function? Simple. The name of what is the syntax? Name of function, and the parenthesis. This is the syntax, and the semicolon. This is what? Calling a function. Calling a function. And second way we can call a function from another function. So here you can see inside the fun1, I am calling the function fun2. So a function can be called from main method, a function can be called by another user-defined function. Syntax will be remain same. Name of the function, here name of the function is fun1 because I am calling fun1 from main. So what will be the flow? Main is calling home, main is calling fun1, so I am using its name and the parenthesis, and fun1 is calling fun2, so I am using its name and the parenthesis. So every time semicolon is required because it is an executable statement. It is an executable statement. Okay, so now let's see clearly. Second point now. In this program, we have actually two entities. Here you can see main is calling, correct? Main is calling whom? Main is calling fun1. So when you're working with function, there will be two entities. One will be the calling function, another will be the called function. One will be the calling function, another will be the called function. So now here, main is calling fun1, correct? Main is calling fun1. Here you can see main is calling fun1. So what are the entities now? Calling and call. Let's see who is the called function, who is the calling function. Fun1 is the called function. Why? Because fun1 is get called by main. Main is calling whom? Fun1. So what is fun1? Fun1 will be the called function and main is calling, so main will be the calling function. So for this relation, main and fun1 will act as a called function because fun1 is called by main, and main will be act as a calling function because main is calling fun1. So this is the second one. Fun1 in between fun1 and fun2. In between fun1 and fun2. So fun1 is calling fun2, correct? Fun1 is calling fun2, correct? So fun1 will be the calling function and the other side fun2 will be the called function. So these are the two entities always there whenever you working with function. So how to call a function? Simple, using its name and the parenthesis. So now let us understand how this complete function will work together. So let us summarize the whole program that we have written. Let us see. Once the function is get declared and defined, then it is called from another function. Yes, fun1 is defined here, no problem. Fun2 is declared here and defined here. What is the next step? Step 3, call the function from another function. A function can also call itself, we'll see later. Here fun1 get called from main. Okay, so fun1 is calling by main at first. So our program execution always start from the main method, correct? So here it can see fun2 is declared and fun1 is get called. Okay, so let's see what happened next. Fun1 first called from main. Yes, fun1 is get called from main in this line. Then program control is transferred to the body of fun1. Program control is transferred to the body of fun1. Okay, so it's transferring to the fun1. Program control is transferring to the body of fun1. So before transferring, what are the steps compiler will follow? Please note down now. Before transferring, the control CPU saved the location from where control has been transferred. Why? Why CPU need to save? Suppose you are sitting here, correct? You are sitting here in a particular room number. Room number is 12. We are sitting. There are lots of the room in your school or college. You are sitting in room number 12. Suddenly your faculty has come and it's told you that go to the room number 20 and you need to do certain job. And once the job is over, come back. So room number 20 is somewhere in this line. So you need to go there. And once the job is over, you need to come back. This is your location, where you always be available in room number 12. So means what? We always map this thing from where I am coming in room number 20, I should go back. So I have mapped in my brain. So what CPU will do? CPU will first save in somewhere in the RAM. We called it PCB. You will understand this topic with the operating system. Program control block, PCB. It will save. So it is coming from this particular line. So once my execution is over for this fun1, I can return to the same line. I can return to the same line from where I have come. Okay, so that's why this line is very, very important. Whatever I have told you that before transferring the control of CPU will save the location. Here CPU is moving from line number 2 of main method to the body of fun1. It will saved. So once this body get executed, it will be coming back to the same line. So let's see the next point. Inside fun1, again fun2 get called. So it is transferring the control over here, correct? So that it can return. It can return, correct? So now let's see what is written inside the fun1. In fun1, we are calling the function fun2. So see, inside fun1, fun2 get called first, and again program control has transferred to fun2. So from this line, from this line, it is jumped where? It is jumped to the body of fund2. Body of fund2. First jump is here and second jump is here. So again, we need to save the location. We need to save the location before transferring. So there is two locations now, one inside main, another inside fund1. So let's see what is written in fund2. The return statement inside fund2 get executed. Why? Because there is no other line, so return statement is there. So what it will do? Get executed and return 1 to the calling function. Return 1 to the calling function. So what this function will do? It will return 1 to whom? To the calling function. To the calling function. So what we are returning? Look at carefully. We are returning a value 1 from where? From fund2. Return a value 1 to whom? Return this 1 to whom? To fund1. So how to return? Using the return statement. Using the return statement. So now what is the type of 1? What is the type of value fund2 is returning? Integer type it is returning. Correct? So see here integer type. See here declaration also integer. So they should be matched. And the value it is returning, now see, we need somebody who can catch the return value. If someone give you something, you need to catch it, correct? You need to pick it. So here we need a variable inside the fund1 which can save the value which is returned by the fund2. Fund2 is returning an 1. What is the type of 1? Integer. To whom? Fund1. So now fund1 required what? Fund1 required a variable. For what? To save the return value. To save the return value. Who is returning? Fund2 is returning. What type of value? Integer type. So what type of variable should I declare in fund1? The type of variable also should be integer. So you can check the first line. Okay, so now let's see the next point. The return value of fund2 is saved to a local variable k. Yes, k is a local variable because it is declared inside the fund1. Saved. What value now k have? K has 1 of fund1. Correct? So what is the most important point? The type of value we are returning from fund2, the return type of the function in header should be same, and the calling function should have some local variable which can save the return value of same type. The calling function, fund1 is the calling function, has a variable of same type which can save the return value. Okay, so this should be the similarity. Next, now next line. So this line is now completely executed. Program controls return. So remember one very important point. Once the return statement get executed, the program function execution is completed. It means return statement should be the last statement of function that's going to be executed. It is also true for main. It is also true for main. Should be the last statement. So now nothing is there. Even though there is something, it is not going to be executed. So now this line is executed. As of this line, k has a value 1. So now return statement written in fund1 get executed. So we need to now check fund1 called by which function? Fund1 was called by main. So what type of function fund was returning? 1 is returning. What is the type of 1? Integer. So what is the return type of fund1? Integer. So we need one local variable inside main method which can store the value of return value for fund1. So see, a variable val is get declared. A variable val is get declared. What is the type of val? Integer. What is the type of value we are returning from fund1? Integer. What is the return type in the header of fund1? Integer. There should be similarity. So the value of val is get saved here. Okay. So just I want to print the value of val. So it is incomplete statement. This line is incomplete. So write this statement. Printf %d val. You will get the value. It will print 1. So this is the flow started from a function. We call fun1, so it's become two entity, calling function, call function. Main is the calling and fun1 is the call. Need to be saved the line number from where the function call gets generated. So program control jump to the body of the function, execute it. If there is any return value, it's returning. Return value should be saved, and you can use this return value anywhere. So let's see this in compiler. Okay, let's see this in compiler. So we first call the fun1 from here, correct? So I'm calling the fun1. Okay. Next, no parameter, because that's why void is mentioned. So fun1 will be return a value. We'll see later what we can return, but whatever value it will return, integer type. So let's have a local variable here. It is not necessary that local variable should be declared in the same statement where we calling the function. We can declare the local variable before and later we can use it. Same job it will do. Compiler simply check the type of k. Yes, it is integer. So satisfied. Now let's go to the fun1 and write the body. So we are calling fun2 from here, correct? So what is the return type of fun2? Integer. So we need another local variable over here also. Let's take another name. Yeah. And now let's go to the fun2. So what are you going to do? Just we're going to return an integer. Suppose I am returning 20. We'll see later the some complex functions returning 20. So 20 will be saved here A. And now I'm returning A from here. So the value of A will be returned. Please note down what it will have. The value of A will be returned now. Okay, what this will return? Value of A to the calling function. Value of A to the calling function. So who is the calling function here? For fun1, main. So the value of A, what is the value of A? Value of A is 20. So 20 will be saved into K. 20 will become here. Okay, so now let's print the value of K so that we can understand the flow. Printf %d and K. So we get an output 20. There are some warning. What is the issue? Let us check. Implicit declaration of fun2. Did you mean fun1? Implicit declaration. So it is declaring by the compiler as well. It is giving me the warning, line number 3. Okay, so let's put this declaration outside. Run. Fine. Now it is declared. See what is the problem here? Very interesting fact here. Very interesting fact. See, earlier fun2 was declared here. Okay, fun2 was declared here earlier. So now see that your code that we have built here, fun2 is calling from fun1, correct? So compiler expecting that this function should be declared before using of it. Here fun1 is before main method. So compiler expecting fun2 should declare before fun1. So earlier this line is not there. Line number 2 is not there earlier. So let me show you again. Let's put fun2 in comment. So now compiler expect that fun2 that you are using line number 4, it should be declared first. This is the nature of C compiler. Declare it first before using. But earlier what we did, earlier we have make the function declaration here. So it is not before fun1, it is inside main. Although it is global, there is no issue. But where is the declaration has been done? Declaration has been done inside the main method. So compiler to successfully execute this line, it's going to be declared on its own. See the warning, on its own. What it is saying? Implicit. Implicit means compiler is doing on its own. What? Declaration of fun2. Because of this, support this particular line. If I just comment it out, if I did not call this fun2, there will be no issue. Here it is. So let me declare integer a, else there will be an error. Now see, there is no warning. Don't go to the output. My code is not okay here because I commented out line number 4. Don't see the output now. Just understand the concept. Fun2 is not called inside the fun1. Fun2 declared inside main. Write it after main. No issue. Fine. But I'm calling now fun2. But where is fun2? Declared inside main. So compilers, what is the rules of compiler? Compiler, the rules is that declare first before use it. So I'm using it here. You should declare it before. Else compiler going to be declare a implicit version. That's why give me the warning. Compiler बोल रहा है यहाँ पे मैंने खुद डिक्लेयर कर दी है, then what is the use of this line? I have already declared that particular line. Then why should you declare it again? So that's why it is saying that. Do you mean in line number 4 fun1 instead of fun2? Okay, so if I make it before, now there will be no issue. Now no problem, we get the correct output. So another way also we can take care of this issue. Now place this after fun2. Okay, and put it this comment and make it uncomment. Now fun2 declared inside main, fun2 defined before fun1, fun2 calling from fun1. Let's see now. Same. Why? Because it is expecting that it should be declared before. So now see what it is telling. Implicit declaration of fun1. Let's see. Now fun2 is not there. Now it is saying implicit declaration of fun1. Now there is no error with fun2. We get the warning for fun1. Why? See, fun1 is defined after main. So what is the rules? If you defined a function, it should be declared first. If you did not declare, it should compiler will declare on behalf of you. It is only possible with the return type integer. It is only possible only with the return type integer. If your function is a float type, it will not going to write any implicit declaration. Here it is. Now fun1 is not declared, correct? So let's make it float. Float. So let's take care. If it is float, it should be return type is float. So I'm returning a float value 2.5f. Sorry. 2.5f. I'm returning a float. And fun1 is get call from the main method. So let's make it okay as a float as well. There should not be any type mismatch. So now see. Now return type of fun1 is float. Earlier we have seen that if return type is integer but we have missed the declaration, compiler give the declaration on behalf of us. Now let's see. Now see, it is not going to be give you any implicit declaration. Directly it give you the error. Read the error carefully and note down. Very, very interesting fact. See this line error. Conflicting types of fun1. What is the meaning of the word conflicting? Conflicting means confusion. You have two things. You need to pick one, but you're confused which one you should pick. We call the conflict of interest. One person doing two jobs, conflict of interest cannot do at the same time, correct? So conflicting types. Why conflicting? Conflicting. Why conflicting? There is a fun1 only float type. Okay, let me show you. There is fun1 in float type, line number 17. What I told, if you did not declare, what compiler will do? Compiler will make a declaration on its own. Compiler only can do with integer. So compiler says, I have already declared fun1 with integer, but because its return type is float, compiler says it's conflicting. I am saying integer and you make it float. If you make it integer, no issue. Type same, now type mismatch, so that's a conflicting. Okay, so little bit concept is little bit advanced here. We need to take care of such concepts. Okay, so if you want to execute this code, you need to declare it. Float fun1 declared. Now run. Now there is no issue. See, flow is remain same. Starting from main method, then it is jump function wise. The way you are calling flow remains same. Flow doesn't change. Here you're talking about the when compiler will declare, when compiler will not declare. Compiler will declare only if your function return type is integer. Compiler will not declare if your function return type is anything other than integer. Okay, I hope you understand the flow of program function. So let's go back. So now let's talk about more something about the return statement of the function, return statement. So here we take an example, different function we have written here. What is the purpose of this function? I've written a function here, sum of digits, will give an input as a parameter to the function. Okay. And this function will return me the sum of the digits. Will return me the sum of digits. Let's see the return statement little bit. So here a user defined function is designed to return something to the calling function. Yes. So here main is calling function. Now we can understand what is calling. And here this function is called function. User defined function, correct? We can see it is called from the main. Here sum of digits returns the sum of the digits of a number num. So what is num here? Num is a parameter, or you can say argument. Okay, so there is only one parameter now, so that's a comma is not required. And I have defined the function before main, so I'm ignoring the declaration. I'm ignoring the step 1. I'm just directly start from the step 2. This is my step 2, defining, and this is my step 3, calling. So this function has a parameter. So now look at this header part. This header part has what? 3 things we know. Return type, name, list of parameters. Only one parameters over here. What type of parameters? Integer type parameters. What is the type of num? Integer. Num is a parameter and passed from calling function. Yes. So what is the purpose of this parameter? Value will be passed from calling function. So who is calling function? Main. So who is responsible to pass the values of num? Main will responsible. So now look at the main method correctly. I am passing a value here 255. So what is the type of 255? It is an integer constant, integer. What is the type of argument? Integer. So it means this function is designed to take a parameter, take a value from the calling function of integer type. Only one value, not more than one. Because in a header, there is only one parameter. That means only one value. What type? Integer type. Next, exit from the called function. Exit from the called function. Who is called function? Sum of digits is the call function, correct? Sum of digits is the called function. Exit from the called function to the calling function is done by the use of return statement. So exit from called function to the calling function is done by the return statement. That's why I told you that return statement should be the last statement of the body of function, last statement of the body of the function. So means nothing is left for execution, everything is get executed. So it is also called exiting. From where? From called function. From user defined function, exiting. So how to justify? Through the return statement. through the return statement. So what it will return? It will return sum. What is sum? Look at carefully. Return sum, correct? Return sum returns the value of sum of calling function. So what is sum? Sum is the local variable. It is declared to 0 and it is updated inside this while loop. Let us see what the value of sum. So step number 1, I'm here at first program execution started from here. Call function is get called sum of digits. What is the value that we are passing? 255. So it is taking this 255, this value, and giving to the parameter. So what is the value of num now? 255. Okay, so it is not only just moving from main to the sum of digits, it is also going with along with the parameter. So this value will be copied. Okay, so 255 will be copied. Will be copied in which location? Location of num. It will be copied. Correct? The value of num now 255. So what it will do? We are checking a condition while num greater than 0. Initially sum is a variable. Okay, the value of sum is right now 0. Inside it is a local variable, correct? Local variable. Condition num greater than 0. Yes. What is the value of num? 255. Greater than 0. Condition true. Sum equal to sum plus. Okay, sum equal to sum plus. Sum is 0 plus. Num, what is num? 255 modulus 10. So what we will get? We'll get 5. So 5 will be there. So what is the value of sum now? 5. It's become 5. Now num equal to num by 10. So this statement can be written as num equal to num by 10. This compound assignment operator. So num is further reduced by 10. So if I divide num by 10, 255 by 10, what the value? Value is become 25. So now loop will go up. It check num is greater than 0. Yes, num is 25. Greater than 0, true. To come inside. Next, sum equal to sum plus. So what is the value of sum? 5. Sum plus. Num modulus 10. What is num? Num is 25. Modulus 10. So what we will get? 5. So 5 is added. So it's become 10. Save it to the sum. Num equal to num by 10. So what is the value of num? 25. 25 divided by 10. What we will get? 2. So it will go up the loop. Again we are checking the condition. 2 greater than 0. Yes, 2 is greater than 0. True. Sum equal to sum plus. Okay, sum plus. Num modulus 10. So 2 modulus 10. What we will get? 2 modulus 10. 2. So it will become 12. And num equal to num by 10. What is num? Num is 2. So 2 by 10, answer will be 0. So the value of num is right now 0. Num becomes 0 now. It will go up 0 greater than 0, false. Loop will terminate. Return sum. What is the value of sum? 12. What is 12? See. What is 12? 2 plus 5 plus 5. What are these? They are the digits of the number that I have passed. So it will give me the 12. Yes, answer is 12. So this 12 is coming where? To this local variable of main. What value it is returning? 255. What is the type of 255? Sorry, what value it is returning? 12. 12. What is the type of 12? Integer. How? Because sum is declared with integer. So return type is also integer. And what is the type of local variable? Integer. So there should be similarity. So what it will print? 12. So here we are returning an integer. Let's see. Earlier we have returned a single value. Correct? Single value here. Returning a single value. Next. More about the return statement. Now look at the return statement. Earlier I am using a name only. Return sum. Return 0. Return 1. Now I have written an expression as a return statement. Expression. So this expression will be evaluated first. Here I am passing just a number of 2 digits and I want to get the sum of 2 digits. I am using an expression. It is also allowed in C programming. We can put an expression in case of return statement. That means return is an executable statement. Now it is clear. Return is what? It is an executable statement. If you write return 1, it will return 1. If you write return 2 plus 1, so it will be evaluated first and the value 3 will be returned. So similar thing is going on here. I saved the first digit in this, last digit in this variable. I saved the first digit in this particular variable. And now I just sum these two variables and return the value. Again, their type is integer. So what will be the type of this expression? Integer. What will be the type of this expression? Integer. Why? Because both the variable type is integer. Here you can see integer. So what is the type of this expression? Integer. What is the type of the function? Integer. What is the type of variable that we is using in the calling function to save the value? Integer. So there should be similarity. Later we are going to see in detail about the return statement. We can put function call also. Later we are going to see that. Not in this lecture, in another lecture. Okay, so let's see this here. Let's write the main method first. Okay, let's define a function. Okay, and returning some expression from here, 20 plus 3. I can put anything. I am now writing 20 into 3. Correct? I am calling the function fun. It will return me an integer. So let's take an integer. It will save it here. And let's print the value of k. See here, there is no error. And I get the output 60. 20 into 3, 60. Correct? Now see, I am writing float f equal to 3.5 f, and I am writing integer a equal to 4. And now what I am writing, a plus f. A plus f. So what is the type of this expression now? Float is higher data type. Float has two parts, integer part as well as the fractional part, decimal points also. So when we perform any arithmetic operation between an integer and float, expression type will be float. Please watch my typecasting video to understand this concept. So a plus f, what is a? Integer. What is the type of f? Float. So out of these two, which one is the higher data type? So it will become type promotion. So this expression will be promoted to float. So then what will be return type? Return type should be float. Return type should be float. Then what will be the type of local variable? Also float. Four plus 3.5 is 7.5. Now let's see, it is type of the expression is float, but I am returning integer. What will happen now? Let's see, typecasting will be there or not. Run. Yes, expression value is float 7.5, but return type is integer. So type mismatch. So when type mismatch, what will happen? Internally, how it is look like? See, when the compiler is evaluated the function call, internally how it is look like? This function call will be replaced by what? This return statement. So what you are writing? Integer k equal to a plus f. Correct? So this function call will be replaced by the return statement only. So what is the type of a? Type of a is integer in function. What is the type of f? Float. So what is the outcome of this expression? It will become float type, promoted to higher data type. So a will be converted to float first. Okay. Then added with the value 3.5. So what we get now? 7.5. But what we are assigning to an integer. So what will happen? Only integer part will be assigned to k. So that's why you can see output is 7. So typecasting is also possible in return type and the type of the function. So anything extra will be lost that. So that's why we should concentrate on writing function that return type of the function and return value type of the function and the variable that we're going to take to hold the value of return value should be same. Okay, so this lecture is a little bit lengthy. I'm just discussing the very basic parts. So let's move further. So watch till the end to understand the whole concept. So before return the expression, what will happen? As I told, expression will be evaluated. So it is mentioned here, expression will be evaluated. So now we can also have a mechanism which is called no return statement. No return statement. See, the same code I have implemented with respect to the previous one, sum of the digits of a number which is a 2 digits, that passing from the calling function. Here I printing the sum from the main method, from the calling function. How it is possible? Because after the completion of the job, it's give me the return value. That's why it is possible. After completion the code inside the function, it's give me the return value. So I can print it from the calling function. Now see, I don't want to return. So you need to take care of the output within the called function itself. So no return means void. So they see there is no return statement. There is no return statement. No return statement. So type of function should be void. So now see, there is no assignment operator. I don't need any variable which can store the value, because right now it is not returning anything. No return. Returning nothing. To whom? To the calling function. So that's why this variable is not required anymore, store the result. Okay. So I'm going to stop this lecture here. In the next lecture of the function, you're going to understand types of functions. Okay, types of functions. So do not forget to subscribe this channel. If you subscribe, what is the benefit? Immediately you get the notification in your email once I upload a new video. Okay, so I hope you understand how function is going to be work in C programming. What are the process you need to follow? Next, we will get the videos of types of functions supported in C programming and a few other facts. Okay, so function lecture will be divided into few parts, 4 or 5 parts. Okay, so thank you very much from my side. Give me a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe my channel. And please share this video along with your friends so that they can also gain the knowledge. Okay.